I think that could be a killer
Yes.
in a relationship when you have unmet expectations, but they were never spoken.
Absolutely. That's one of the most silent killers, right? Just of any relationship, just uncommunicated expectations.
Yeah.
And you walk around upset and mad because you want the person to read your mind.
Welcome back to Voices Restored, where we educate and empower and hear real stories and have real conversations. Today we have Bishop Sieon Roberts with us. We are talking about relationships, healthy relationships, family dynamic relationships. And how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. To see you doing boss things is amazing. I've been watching what you're doing on social media, so we're just looking forward to all of the content that you're going to be blessing the world with.
Thank you, Bishop. I appreciate it. So Bishop is my pastor as well. He is wonderful and very God-led, Spirit-led, Holy Spirit-led, and has poured into my life so much. And I thank God for you.
Amen.
So I know you have a book coming out.
I do.
Talk to us about the book.
So the book is called The Revelation of Relationships, Seven Principles to a Godly Relationship. This will be my fifth book, but it's by far the best one. It's going to be amazing. So we're looking, I don't know when this will drop, but we're looking to drop somewhere in the beginning of February.
So talk to us about what made you want to write this book.
God. So, I mean, I don't mean that I mean that literally. So, we were doing, myself and Pastor Sieon were doing sermon series, and each month had a theme.
Yes.
So I was writing a book, literally started writing a book called The Secret Sin. And we started in July our series on relationships. And when I tell you God just started pouring into me revelation about relationships from the Bible, basically Genesis 1, 2, and 3, and stuff that I had never seen before. And he told me to start writing. And all of my sermons that I preached were transcribed, and I started writing, and God started speaking, and the book came from there. He told me it was going to be a book.
Wow.
And I got it done and sent it to my editor, and we were just in awe at the finished product. So we're there. We're just waiting until February to release it.
It takes, when you're obedient, I think, to the Holy Spirit and to what God has called you to do, it just flows naturally, I think, from that point. You just got to walk it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how has that book changed your life since writing it, or your perspective on relationships?
Totally, fully. Like I feel like I wish I had gotten this revelation before. And I know all things happen in God's timing and God's will, but like it would have probably saved several of my relationships, or even relationships that are still intact. It would have made me show up better in those. Because it's not a book just about romantic relationships. It's about any relationship. Like how God wants us to relate to each other after we learn to relate to him. And so that's the crux of the book. And so it's changed everything, because I now understand what I need to be and how I need to show up, first with God and then with any other person, whether that be my children, whether that be my mother, my sisters, whatever relationship that I need to show up in, I understand how to show up in.
Yeah. So let's talk about your childhood, growing up, right? What was your experience with relationships, from family relationships to friendships to romantic relationships, compared to now?
2 words. A mess.
A mess.
Yes. It was just because I had a rough childhood, right?
Okay.
So my father, my birth father, was not there. And my mother was a teenager when she had me. And so she was considering what her options were. What should she do? Like most teenagers, she's afraid.
Yeah,
She's,
I can
didn't know what to do. About adoption, abortion, what should she do? So not a lot of connection in the womb with her. No connection with my father. So I came out like doubly rejected almost, right? Now my mother is a woman of God, so we since have very much healed that area, but that started the chain. And then the man that she married was an abuser, so he abused me tremendously. I went through a lot of abuse as a child, and so that knocked off the pendulum for every relationship. It changed the dynamic of every relationship because I was angry, hurt. So my marriage, that my ex-wife, she didn't get the best version of me because I had a lot of healing. I was a grown man,
You
still needing to heal, right? Still healing from childhood trauma and hurt.
So when you were a child and experiencing that abuse, how did that affect you in school or just with your peers?
It's a great question. Angry. My mother, she would tell you like she was always up to the school because I was always in fights.
Yeah.
I handled everything with anger. You know, I would fight people. I put holes in walls. At 15, I tried to commit suicide. So it was very much a spiral out of control at some point in my life. And it took God to really pull me in, but it affected a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely did.
So then growing up, becoming a man, walking into your adult life, you didn't get any help prior to that, getting into romantic relationships?
No, I didn't, because it really therapy and God. So I didn't really learn about therapy though until my adulthood, right? And my mom, she was a praying mother, so she prayed me through what she could. But I never really had healthy relationships with any men until I met my pastor.
Yeah.
And he's been a tremendous male figure in my life since then. But no, going into adulthood, I didn't have any help.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, I'll be honest with you, I'm 46. I didn't really even start healing fully from the situation with my mom until I was 40. It took a therapist to help talk me through, unpack all of that. So a lot of it I suppressed and matured through. So I wasn't putting holes in walls, you know, as a father and as an adult married man. But it was affecting my relationships, how I opened up to people, the spirals that I would go into, the dark places that I would go into just because of that rejection and all of that. So
it just showed up in different ways.
Yes.
So it was kind of swept under the rug. And I'm just curious, in school, did any counselors ever talk to you about, hey, what is really going on? Why are you acting or lashing out this way? Teachers?
No, what I would get often though is I would get like, you're better than this. Like they all saw something in me.
Okay.
Right. So they wouldn't try to figure out what was going on, but you know, they would always say like, it's not you, right? Like you're so much better than this. I remember when after I tried to commit suicide when I was 15 or 16, I went to my mom. When you do that, you have to go to at least 72 hours to like a psychiatric lockdown place, right? So I'm in there in the hospital. They had it on one of the floors in the hospital, and a bunch of teenagers, a bunch of kids around my age. And all of them are like taking meds. And so when they did my psych evaluation, the doctor's like, yeah, no, you don't need medicine.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't gonna take it anyway because my mom had already
said no.
Prepped me. But he just saw like, I don't know why this kid's here, but he shouldn't be here.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's deep though. That's pretty sad that there were that many teenagers in that psych ward taking medication. I'm sure some of them also didn't need medication.
Right.
But I think if some of the teachers and counselors or principals even dug a little bit deeper, asked the right questions, they could have realized that there was something going on in the house, the home. Yeah.
They could have, but you know, it made things a lot more lonely. And it took a while. I'm not gonna lie. It took a long while into my adulthood for me to really be able to heal from that. And it's one of the reasons why I'm such a component for therapy, because I was a church boy. And by that, when I started healing, I was a pastor already. And God was doing his work, but therapy helped me to unpack things. It was really the Holy Spirit and God that kept me from acting out. But it was therapy that helped me to unpack what had happened to me and actually heal.
Yeah. You know, I didn't realize that. I mean, I always heard therapy's good and it's good for the healing journey and the process and all that. But having the right therapist matters as well.
Absolutely.
So I've had some therapy sessions in the past and I thought I was good. But it was, I would say over the past year, I realized, okay, I need therapy, some more therapy, but with the right type of therapist. So I had to like shop around a little bit. I think it's super important for people to connect with the right type of therapist.
That's the key.
Yeah.
It's the key because I'm a pastor and because I've taken courses on how to counsel people and all of that, I would be sitting in there outthinking the therapist, right? Like, and so it just was really hard for me to find the right therapist.
Yeah.
I've had probably 2 good ones. And the latest good one that I had was the one who really helped me unpack the situation with my mom. My dad was a easy one. Like, he was abusive. You know, my first real biological father abandoned me. I never had a relationship with him. And then the man that she married, who actually adopted me and gave me his last name, he was the one that was abusive. So, I mean, he was easy. Like, I knew I had daddy issues because the man beat me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. My mom was the harder one to unpack. And I just couldn't figure out, like, why did I struggle in my connection with her? I'm a pastor. She's an intercessor, praying woman. What is this? And my therapist helped me unpack that lack of the connection in the womb. And she actually, because nobody knew that I was coming until the day I got here.
Wow.
And I don't know how my mother hid her pregnancy, but she was just,
okay.
She was one of those women that just didn't show a lot, right?
Yeah,
And
I've
she
heard that.
wore big clothes, and nobody knew. My grandfather, who was the pastor of the church that I pastored in Gary, he was the pastor at one time. He got a call and said, your daughter is at the hospital having a baby. And he was like, not my daughter. And they were like, yeah. And so me telling that, I used to tell that story as like a testimony, but I never thought until the therapist said, that's interesting. You should ask your mom if she thought about aborting you. Maybe that's why nobody knew you were coming. She didn't want you. She didn't know if she wanted you.
That must have been a tough conversation to have.
Yeah, but she was open to it though, because she knew I needed it to heal, and she didn't hold back anything. And she was honest. She was like, "Hey, I was 19 and pregnant and scared. Like, didn't know what to do. Her father is the pastor. Like, you know how people look on pastors' daughters that are pregnant, teenage pregnant. So it was all of that she had to deal with. But it probably was. I made it easy for her because I wanted to move on from it. So I didn't want it, I didn't want her to know that I wanted to forgive, but I needed to talk through that, and to hear her open up and say that was very much healing for me.
Yeah. So right now in this place you are with relationships, any type of relationship, do you feel like you're able to have healthy relationships?
I am. Still learning. This book, which has come about in the last 6 months, has been the thing, though, that I probably 6 months ago would have probably said no. I probably would have attempted relationships, but just wasn't ready because I'm, 3 years off a divorce. That's still kind of fresh.
Right.
But now that God has given me that book and given me the revelation that He's given me, and I'm healed to the point wherewith I understand all of the trauma that I've been through, I believe I'm ready, and I think I've already seen the fruit, even with my children, right? The 5 boys that I have. So it's already been a blessing in that area, and I know whenever I meet whoever the next person is that I'll marry, it'll yield fruit in that area as well.
Yeah. So speaking to men, right? There's a lot of men who are walking around with similar trauma that you probably experienced, unhealed trauma. What would you say to the men who are just getting into relationships and hurting? What do they say? Hurt people. What do you say to the men who are going through that?
So yeah, that's a soft spot of mine, because I think men have so many unrealistic expectations placed on them. And then we're raised and trained differently. So we're raised to be tough. We're raised to put dirt on everything. If you get a sore, you're okay, rub some dirt on it. Don't cry, suck it up. So we teach men how to detach from their emotions. And then when situations arise and emotions arise, because of our training, we don't know what to do. And so we mishandle a lot of those situations because we're told not to cry. We're told to be tough. We bear the weight and the shoulder, put a lot on our shoulders. And then when it's time to show up emotionally for our children or a woman in a relationship, we can't do it effectively because we've not been taught how to do that. So the biggest difference between, and I have 5 boys, so all men, I'm raising all men, right? The biggest difference between the first 3, which are 23, 22, and soon to be 21 next week, and these last 2 that are my set of twins that'll be 2 next month, is the biggest difference between the 2 is I've learned so much about the twins. They will be very much emotionally intelligent, right? Because I'm going to teach them how to manage and harness their emotions. Don't want them to be overly emotional, but they need to know it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you don't cry.
Yeah.
I'm just want you to make sure you're crying for something that's worthy to be cried about, right? And I want you to know that it's okay to express themselves and show love and things of that nature. So I think for men, that's the biggest deal. I think there needs to be more dedicated space to help young men. We got to start when they're young. But even older men that didn't get it, help them become more emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, because they don't have the right role models,
Right.
unfortunately. And for women, too, in most cases, we don't have the proper role models to model what a healthy relationship should look like.
Right.
And when that happens, sometimes it ends up in a toxic, you end up in a toxic situation.
I think the biggest tragedy or travesty that I see is we judge the men based upon, so like if a man does something that is ridiculous or does something that is bad, we're going to judge the action, but we're not going to judge what led up to the action, right? So we never ask, what made this man this way? Why is he an abuser? Why is he this? Why is he that? Of course, none of it's okay, but a person's why is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
If I get the help that I need, then maybe I go down another path, right? And I'm always sensitive to that because if it wasn't for God's grace and him healing me, I was an angry boy. If I would have continued down that path, I easily could have ended up in jail.
Yeah.
I could have killed someone. I mean, who knows where my anger, the enemy had plans, put it that way. And God just took me down another way. So I'm real big on helping the men and coaching the men up in that area and just finding out a person's why.
Yeah. But also communication is a big deal, right? Knowing how to communicate and really getting your thoughts out properly. I think that's important for men. A lot of them don't know how to do that.
And that's emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe my calling and my job has helped me with that. I communicate for a living, so I'm very good at communicating my feelings, and but I think to your point, that's a coaching point. I think more people have to help men and women, for that matter, with emotional intelligence and communicating yourself, how to communicate your feelings and your thoughts. And so it's something, again, that I'm very vested in right now, even with all of my children, but specifically the babies.
Yeah, it takes a level of maturity to realize, hey, I need to take some time out for myself and not get into any relationships right now. How can a man realize, or when does a man realize that I need this moment? I need to pause. No more dating.
Yeah, that it takes a lot for a man because we're different, and so that's a whole nother rabbit hole. It's a huge rabbit hole, but I think number one, fathering helps. Fathering is a big deal. My children have my voice, so I'm trying to teach them things like that. Like, hey, time is on your side right now, right? You're young, finish college, finish school, do this, that. And like, you've got multiple children. Some listen, some don't, right? So you just give them the voice of the father, but I think fathering helps. But men need that. And I wrote a book called Where's My Father? The Missing Pattern. And we just talked about when a dad is out of the home, dad set the patterns, right? Dad set the tone. It's tough. A man or a woman, for that matter, is missing something when her dad or his dad's not there.
Yeah.
So I think that would help if we had more dads, first of all. Present, yeah. Right? And then more coaches for when we don't have dads, people to help coach men in that area, because it's tough for a man to say, I'll just leave it there. It's tough for a man to say, I'm not going to date. That usually goes one or two ways. There are some mature men who have been there. I'll tell you what, maturity or heartbreak will do it to you, right? So for me, it wasn't so much maturity. For me, it was like the divorce was like death. So it wasn't hard for me. I'm like, you know what? I'm staying away from that right now.
You need a timeout.
Yeah. I need time. And I was, just getting to Houston. And,
a lot of transitions.
Yeah, a lot of transitions. So it was good. It was a good season for me. And it wasn't hard for me to not date, because I just knew to the extent that I learned this time that having children wasn't going to be a reason for me to commit.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the order that God wants it in. But I just knew two wrongs are definitely not going to make a right.
Right.
So I'm not going to compound a mistake with another bad mistake. And so that's a whole nother conversation.
So the homes with the absent fathers makes a big difference, right? Number one. Number two, when a woman gets involved in a relationship with a man, what are some questions do you think a woman should ask before really getting serious in that relationship?
That's a great question. It's gonna be.
I got more.
I know. It's in my book,
Okay.
The Revelation of Relationships.
Okay.
The first question any woman should ask any man is, what is your purpose? Right? Like, what does God put you on this earth to do? And that's a serious thing. And she should ask that knowing hers already, right? If you don't know what God put you on earth to do, you're about to make a mess out of it. Now, and it's going to be harder, I'll put it that way. It'd be much harder. Some people find it along the way, right? But to be honest with you, if I'm given the cheat sheet, that's the first question you should ask a man. Shortly after that, also in the book, one of the principles is responsibilities, right? Do you have a job? Do you know what I mean? Do you have
some income?
Yeah, do you have some
money?
income? Like what? Everything else is workable, right? But she should also come to the table with those questions. Like, I'm a firm believer that, I won't get into my take on roles and responsibilities in the home. I think that's fluid, right, based upon the people. But I think whatever she is asking for from the man, she should be willing and ready to be forthcoming with herself.
That's deep, because there's women who think that the men should be able to provide every single thing or come ready in a relationship with everything, but then they don't really have things in order themselves. And I think that could turn into a toxic situation. There's also women who get involved with men and then they play off of situations where they know they have a traumatic background, unhealthy relationships, right? History of that. And they end up being the abuser as well.
Yeah. No,
the roles can reverse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. I think you're right. I mean, for men, I think that men have to always understand and be guarded for those kind of things, because we're not regarded in those areas, right? Like, to your point, men are not always looked at as being abused in a relationship for the most part. Most people think the abuse comes from the man to the woman, but there is a lot of emotional, mental, there are women who are sharp, and the men may not be as sharp, right?
Right.
And she will use that to her advantage, or she will take advantage of that, or those kind of things. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That those roles can be reversed very easily.
Yeah, and then those are underreported cases, unfortunately, when men are being abused. But there are women who take advantage of those situations, and then they become the abuser. And then on top of that, they are, what's the word? They're the more dominant person in the relationship, and they tend to be controlling, especially if they are the what's the word I'm looking for? The person who's making the most money in the relationship, the breadwinner, and they like that, right? And so women who have history with also trauma and toxic behaviors, they need to take a seat too.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they provoke situations, provoke things to happen where it becomes physically abusive, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
And I think that some women need to take more responsibility from that aspect when it comes to domestic violence. But when it comes to the relationships, you talked about rest, right? One of the principles. You talked about, what was the second point? Responsibilities and having some type of income, right? And being a provider. What else do we have when it comes to principles in the book?
Man, you're going to put me on the spot. So restrictions is one.
I don't want you to share too much because we want to read the book.
No, but they're all ours. Rest, responsibility, restrictions is one. That's the chapter that talks about boundaries. Boundaries is a real thing.
Let's talk about boundaries.
Okay.
So when it comes to boundaries, what are boundaries, first of all?
So I think first and foremost, I think people have the wrong idea about boundaries. I think people view boundaries as things that just keep people out. And the truth of the matter is boundaries sanctify what's in, right? Like, so God would always it started with God telling, well, first of all, it started with Adam and Eve. He put them in the garden, and then he put them in Eden, but inside of Eden was a garden. So Eden was a place, but inside of that place, Eden was a garden, and the garden is where he put them. So he started them out with boundaries. He started telling them, hey, you can eat of these trees, but this tree you shouldn't eat, right? He would tell Moses, come meet me in the mountain. Tell the people they can't go this far. Only you can go this far. So like boundaries were always places where God wanted to meet his people. So the garden was a boundary. God met them in the garden. The mountain was a boundary that God said, hey, Israel can go this far. You can come further. I'll meet you up here. So those boundaries was more about keeping the sanctity and keeping the consecration with God more than anything. So yes, there's a secondary meaning to boundaries that has to do with keeping people out, but more than anything is keeping what you have safe, keeping that space, specifically in a godly space, keeping that space with God. So I set up boundaries so that I can meet God, right? Like, I shouldn't be on my phone during this time. That's a boundary. This is my prayer time, or this is my study time, or I'm not willing to do this because this is going to compromise my relationship with God. So where are those lines that we draw that help keep God in a space in our life? Because sin separates us from God. So if you're not keeping to certain boundaries, you're going to find yourself separated from him. So that's a little bit about what the chapter talks about.
Okay.
But those boundaries are key.
That's important. Now, when you have boundaries in a relationship, what does that look like? And you talked about having a relationship with God and having a relationship with others, right?
Yeah.
He's a relational kind of God, and he wants us to have a relationship with other people. So if he wanted boundaries for us with him, right, how do we set boundaries with others?
Well, it depends on what relationship you're talking about, right? So I think every relationship, though, does need boundaries. I think two of the hardest relationships to set boundaries for is marriages, because I think, we believe that we belong to each other, right? What's mine is yours, what's yours is mine, but
we are one.
We are one, right? But there's a boundary that you all have to discuss.
Absolutely.
And, biblical boundaries as well as just your own personal boundaries, right? And that's got to be worked out within the marriage. But I think the second one is between parents and children, right? Like, I am on both spectrums of it, and I've been through it, right? I grew up, I became a grown man, and my mom had certain lines she couldn't cross anymore. My children are becoming grown, my oldest 3 boys. So there are certain boundaries that I had to learn to not cross, right?
I'm having a hard time with that, by the way, because I have an adult son.
Yeah.
And I used to say, hey, where you going? What you doing? Who you with? And let me know when you get here, or share your location.
Yeah.
So I know you're safe. Now it's I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Hanging out. What you doing? Where you going?
General
I'm
answers.
just hanging out. I don't get no details anymore.
Yeah.
So I have to respect that now, because he's an adult, you know, a working man, living on his own, not under my roof anymore.
Right.
So that's hard.
No, it is. And it's, as a parent, that's a real thing, right? Like when I left and Indiana and came to Houston, I was in that transition. All of my sons had spent time or were currently in college. So they were just at that threshold of becoming men, right? So now I've been here 2 years, I'm 2.5 now, I'm literally in my 3rd year, and they're all like men now, right? So the 3rd child, who was the baby before the twins were born, will be 21 next week, right? So that took a healing for me, because they were all boys, so I believed in having them close, right? I'm a man, I'm raising men. Wherever I went, mostly they went. I coached them. They went to church with me. They went, and so it took a healing process for me to let go.
Let them go.
Right?
Yeah.
And understand, like, okay, they're men now. I'm blessed because I still get that from the twins. When I walk in any door that they're in, they run to me, they smile, they laugh. I call them grown kids. They tone is like, what you want, Dad? Like, you know what I mean? So that, those boundaries are there, and I have to just realize they're men. They're becoming men. They're going to do their thing. And, it's funny, though, because even with those boundaries, it don't stop them from asking for money.
Yeah.
Right. But I respect those boundaries.
Yeah. It's so crazy. Like my son, he has a hard time asking for anything. He, my oldest son, he won't ask me for money. He won't ask me for certain things. Even if the bill comes up, I'm going to figure it out. That's his thing. And that part is hard for me, because like you want to help as a mom. You want your kids close. He didn't want to come here. He didn't want to live here with us. But you want them close, like you mentioned. You want to nurture. You want to keep supporting. But they have a path to take for themselves, right? And you just have to trust that what you deposited in them and what God is doing in their lives, that it's going to be okay.
My mom taught me that. She taught me that. That's one lesson she definitely taught me, that your children belong to God. And she used to always tell me, like, I'm turning you over to God. Like, I have to let God, he told me you were a man of God. And so, I'm raising you with that. And I just have to trust God for you. When I was, like I was saying earlier, when I was that angry teenage boy growing up, she was always up to the school. She was telling me then, like I got to turn you over to God. She was a working mom, didn't have any help. My sisters, she left my sister's dad. He's the one that adopted me, their father, their biological father, because he was abusive. So once we left him, she had to do it all on her own. And she taught me, though, that, hey, you've got to turn those children over to God and trust them, that God's hand and God's plan for them is what's going to prevail.
Yeah. And so what about boundaries in romantic relationships, like marriages or boyfriend-girlfriend relationships? How do you define that?
Yeah, I think what the Bible says, right? Like, I think we have made it mainstream and made our own rules. But I think those boundaries are some of the most important boundaries, because I think if you're serious about that person, that's what's going to set the tone for your marriage if you intend to move to marriage. You cannot move recklessly into a thing and then think the thing is going to function at optimal level, right? If you move recklessly in it and with no boundaries and, not establishing a tempo and, talking through, the biggest thing is communication, like you said, communicating not only the boundaries, but anything, uncommunicated expectations is a real thing. If people are not emotionally intelligent, they'll have expectations that they never communicated or boundaries that they never communicated. And I think the healthiest thing you could do in any relationship is to be intelligent emotionally enough to sit and have a conversation about boundaries. What are my boundaries?
Yeah.
These are my boundaries. I want to know your boundaries. Let's talk through them. And maybe the line moves a little bit if you realize, you can talk through some things, but I think that's the paramount part of any romantic relationship is being willing and able to sit down and have the conversation about boundaries very early. Don't like to be talked to a certain way. I don't, just what are the things that are line crossers for me? Where's my line?
So some things I think my husband and I, we had to learn along the way. Communication obviously had to improve throughout the years, but there were boundaries that I didn't necessarily know that I needed. And then there are boundaries that were unsaid, or I expected certain things, or same thing, vice versa with him. And I didn't know because it was never talked about, right? So I think that could be a killer in a relationship when you have unmet expectations, but they were never spoken.
Absolutely. That's one of the most silent killers, right? Just of any relationship, just uncommunicated expectations.
Yeah.
And you walk around upset and mad because you want the person to read your mind, right? But I think to your point, when in a romantic relationship, even before marriage, I think you've got to have that conversation. I think you got to have it early. I think you have to have it often because things reset themselves. So after we've dated a year or two, or even if we've been married a year or two, I'm changing as a person, right? So what we talked about 2 years ago, I may be in a different space, but I think I am responsible. Well, I think we are responsible for creating a space whereby we can come and talk about it often as well as early.
Yeah. And so with boundaries, for me, I have a history of abuse, right? Traumatic experiences there. And so my husband, he was present as a friend at the time. So he experienced that with some things he experienced with me along the way where he was saying, hey, why are you in this relationship? You don't need to be in it, et cetera, et cetera. But I wasn't ready to leave, right? I wasn't ready to walk away. But at the time, I was in one place, one state of mind. Then when we got together, I was in another state of mind. And you may think that you're fully healed, recovered from the situation, but there could be triggers. And so when certain triggers would come up, I had to realize it. And I had talked to him and like, hey, this is a trigger for me. I can't do it. But then when there's another level of trust, I think you start breaking down some of these things a little bit and you start opening up a little bit more where you can relax. And I think that's super important in a relationship, being able to relax.
For sure. I look forward to it. I'm at the place where I finally can start thinking in that way, and probably will at some point here. But you're absolutely right.
Let your guards down.
Yeah, I think you and Emmanuel though are a really good example of marriage and just healthy from outside looking in. Anyway, it looks very healthy.
It took a lot of work.
Yeah, how many years has it been?
14 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah.
And we started as friends, right? So
That's
was
key.
there from the beginning to now. So it took some time, right?
That's awesome.
But with your book, and you said it's coming out when?
First, like the 1st of February, I'll put it this way. It'll be out before Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Just in time for you to get a relationship
That's
read.
perfect. That's perfect timing because, Valentine's Day, it's all about love.
Yeah.
We talk about healthy relationships, right? And so what do you want to leave and close out with the people, our audience today? If you could tell them one thing when it comes to healthy relationships, what would that be?
The greatest thing, and it's going to sound probably maybe cliche or corny because of who I am, but the greatest thing is that you got to have the horizontal relationship before you can have effective vertical relationships. That if you don't learn how to, the word relate, the root word of relationships, of course, is relate. The word relate means a consistent connection. If it's not consistent, it's not a relationship, right? So we've got to learn to consistently connect to God first. And He literally is going to help drive all of the rest of the things that you can find out in the book. And then your vertical relationships will be much healthier. I think we skip the vertical relationship, move straight to the horizontal relationships, and then we end up with toxic relationships because we have not sought him about those. So that's the thing that I would say above everything.
Yeah. So if you have a relationship with God, you consistently consult with God, you communicate with him consistently.
Yes.
He will heal you if you allow him to, and that will allow you to have healthy relationships with others.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you for joining us on Voices Restored. We will see you next time.